Hi, my name is Cliff St. Hubert, and I'm coming from Artistic Curves Academy. And this is a tutorial for the beginner user of Photoshop. Those of you who've used Photoshop in the past before, you're not really going to get much of anything out of this lesson. But for those of you who've always wanted to learn how to use Photoshop, you will get a lot from this lesson. Basically, what I'm going to cover is the user interface, what it is that you're looking at when you open up Photoshop. And then we'll get into more complicated things like opening up a document. First and foremost, the first thing that you'll see in Photoshop is obviously your menu. Up here in the menu bar, this is where all the tools that you'll need to open up in regards to documents and whatnot will live here. But you'll notice a lot of the stuff is already grayed out, and some are active. But even when you open those up in the subtree, those are grayed out as well. Reason why, there's no document open, so that's why. So here you have your menus, and then directly underneath your menu, you'll notice that there is an attribute for the tools that you would work with over here. Every time you click on a new tool, it'll change directly underneath the menu because these are the attributes of the tool that you're picking. Now you'll also notice that these tools have these small little tickers on the side of them. That's because they'll open up into a subtree. There are other tools in that tool that you can use. For example, this is your elliptical marquee tool. You have your elliptical marquee tool here. You have your rectangular marquee tool here, etc., etc. Each one of these tools come with a subtool inside of them, nested inside of them. Not all of them do, but for the most part, relatively, they do. This tool is your selection tool. You can consider this tool kind of like your hand, okay? Or a finger, but it doesn't really do much of anything except for selecting whatever tool, whatever object you have selected in your layers that would live here. We'll get into that in just a second. But all in all, these are the tools you would work with on a composition or on a project that you're working on. Now, also, you'll notice that when you hover over some of these tools, the name of the tool will pop up and the shortcut would pop up. So this tool is obviously the crop tool, and the shortcut for it is C. So if you hit C on your keyboard, it'll automatically activate the crop tool for you. At the bottom over here, you'll see two colors. By default, Photoshop sets it up so that you're working with black and white. Can you change these colors? Of course, absolutely. This is your foreground color, the black, and the white is the background color. Whatever color is in the foreground will stay in the foreground. Whatever color is in the background will stay in the background. If you need to flip from back and forth, you'll see this little toggle right next to in the upper right hand corner of the color swatches that toggles you back and forth through the cycling through your colors. So whatever was in the foreground can now be your background and vice versa. Over here onto the right side of your screen, you'll see some other tools that you will eventually be working with. For example, your brush palettes. Of course, everything is grayed out because for the most part, your brush tool hasn't been selected, but we'll get into that later on. You have your brush tools, you have your brush presets, you have your navigation, etc., etc. What I really want to focus on is something a lot of students tend to ignore at the beginning, and that is the layers. Nothing is more important than this button right here. This helps you manage everything that you're working on in Photoshop, your layers. So you have to keep close tabs of what's going on in your layers field. Okay? It's always a good idea to name your layers, keep them organized, and this way your projects will flow a whole lot easier. You'll notice when we're working on a project, I'm always going to say name your layers, name your layers. A lot of mistakes have been done in the beginning where layers have not been named, and you'll have 50, 60 different layers going on, all of them untitled, and you won't know what anything is. So that's extremely important. Name your layers. Aside from that, basically, in a nutshell, that's all Photoshop really is. You have your menus, you have the attributes for the tools that you will be selecting over here, and then you have the tools that you'll be working with on the right side to manage these tools and the project. Okay? Now, of course, there are effects and filters and whatnot, but we'll get into all those things once we actually open up a document. So here you have your filters. Again, nothing's going to pop up, but you also have effects that you will find in your layers. But of course, down here, of course, you're not going to see anything because there's no document open. But we will get into all of that in the next lesson. So I hope you got a little something out of this, and meet me on the other side for lesson 2, where we're going to actually open up a document and mess around with it and see what comes out of it. Okay? Have a good one. Bye.